Right, okay, folks. So we've got the recording on, and I'll just go back to the first slide. What's your language, and how and what you say can attract or turn away your customers? So this is about me. My name is Pat Gross, and what led me to this webinar series? This is one of a series of 4 that I'm presenting in March. And basically, last year I wrote a book called The Intuitive Marketer, and it was really it's full of checklists and guides and stuff for people new to marketing or struggling or wanting the direction. And it's come out of the fact that back in many moons ago, I worked in a small team, and we were actually the market leader in Europe. And being the market leader in Europe, I got to the point where I was trying to figure out, well, what was the magic formula? So if there we were, the market leader, I was the energy behind it, the powerhouse behind the organization. We organized events, conferences, workshops, training, briefings, anything to do with the European Union and how to get money out of it. And then I went back. I did some study to find out the theory, the marketing theory behind what we were doing that was successful, which was great. Anyway, a few years later, I came to Australia, found myself in a government job, and then I found that for my own values, I decided to start my own business, which did great for the first 3 years. Made the number one mistake, which was not building marketing. And then I spent 3 years after that actually trying to catch up with the latest marketing knowledge, only to find out that the principles were there all the time. It's just the tools, there's the media, the multimedia, the software media, etc. So that's me. I've got a marketing bent within me. And so it's always there at the moment. I specialize in grant writing, community development, and program development. So this is some of the lessons I've learned, and I'm not just talking to businesses, but also talking to the not-for-profit sector as well. Now, I just want to check because yes, it's okay. Somebody wanted to come into the room, and she's in. Okay, so. Okay, so I'm talking, this is about principle of attraction marketing. How do you attract people to you? What's the term? How would you do that? And let's start with what pushes you away, what really, and these are the experiences that I've come across. So for instance, the self-centered website. You're wanting some information, and you go onto a website, and it's all about, especially if it's a business, I'm not stereotyping, but business consultants, you can go onto them, and it's all about them. It's all about what they do, etc., etc. Well, the principle of going onto a website in the first place, no matter, is that you are looking for something for you. So the first mistake I find with many websites when I want looking for information is when you land on them, it's about them. It's not about what they can do for you. The second sort of area that really annoys me is the sell. Now, we've got the rise of webinars. I mean, we're on a webinar today, but there's many people out there who are running webinars which are just basically about the sell. There's no education content. There's nothing that, there's no reciprocation there. There's nothing there that's substance. It's all about selling their product or service, and I tend to turn them off halfway through. Please don't turn this one off. But that's just something as well, is you really, these days, it's all about engaging people and getting to know them, know, like, and trust. So if I see something and it's all about selling, the first thing I do is it just turns, that's it. I don't want to know. And that's something that we should all be aware of, whether we're in a business or a not-for-profit, is that it's not about sell. The other thing I really turns me away is the use of complicated knowledge, complex language. I've used academic as an example here because I've been exposed to, some of the work I do is in the academic area. And again, it's boring, is this? Let's make it as simple as possible. And then, of course, there's complexity. And I've seen this, it's about 2 or 3 years ago. I was researching in websites about how to get volunteers. And some of these well-known charities were making it so difficult for somebody who was interested in volunteering with them to actually get to that point where they can actually contact that charity straight, whether it's by a form or a phone number, whatever. But they made it so complicated, making all these, these rules and conditions and everything you needed to read before you actually said, I want to be a volunteer. And so, that was actually, going against the fact that they were looking for volunteers, and at the same time they were making it difficult for somebody to volunteer. So that's an example of complexity. Um, and then, the talk when somebody's talking to the wrong person, they haven't quite got their target market right. So I just wanted to start with thinking, well, what pushes you away? Now, I can't read the chat box at the moment, but if you want to, can you just put in there in the chat box some ideas of what pushes you away? And then we can talk about them afterwards. Okay, so let's move on. Now, I'm going to give you some examples. When it comes to one of the first things we think about when we're looking for new clients is to have a website. And people say, oh, do we need a website, blah, blah, blah. Well, I say to you, if you were looking for something, where would be the first place you would look? I mean, 15 years ago, you might have said the Yellow Pages, but now you just go straight onto Google or Bing or whoever. So that's telling you something, that if you're out there and you've got a trade or a service to promote, you do need to have a web presence. And so what I did was have a look at some good examples. Now I've got a couple of slides which are in the business area and another slide which converts that to not-for-profit. So depending on who you are and where you're coming from, I hope this is useful anyway. Now, the reason why I have presented this O'Shea Plumbing as an example is because I actually think I looked at plumbers. I just looked at trades, anything in particular. About 3 years ago, I was looking at cleaning services on the border between New South Wales and Victoria, and that was interesting because many of those services actually didn't have a website at the time. And those that did were making all those mistakes I was just telling you about. So I thought, okay, I'll have a look at, in Melbourne, have a look at plumbing, and I looked at plumbing services. And I found this just as an example, just to show you a good example of when somebody wants to land on a website. Now, what's interesting here, and it comes to come over as sexist, didn't mean this, is that when I showed this example to my husband and another example, and he went, oh, that one definitely, which is this one. And I said, why? And he said, because it's blokey. So, so I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But basically, he saw that there are people, I think we should say is there are people there. It was a plumbing service, so he saw the people behind the service. So, that might be a lesson that we all need to do. And I actually talked, when we, part of our what we do is we do build websites for our clients, and we have them on the first page. For instance, for some of them, you do need to know more about who it is that's providing the service, and therefore you must be prepared to have some kind of visual, whether it's a video or even something as simple as this, just because people want to see who it is that they're going to be connecting with. The other thing to be mindful of is that the brain span of a goldfish is 8 seconds away, and for us it's a concentration span, sorry, is 7 seconds. So we've got to be able to we need to be able to get somebody's attention on a website within that short space of time, is what I'm trying to say. Otherwise, we're off the page and looking somewhere else. So for this example is, what you're really looking for when you go onto a website is you're looking for a result. You want a plumber in this example. And I'm using this because we've actually done analysis of marketing strategies for trades. And one of these was, it was actually in the trades area, which is why I've gone for plumbing. And it's interesting, so we can use real life examples here to compare them with. And one example we had was somebody who was providing a similar service, but when you went onto the website, it didn't actually say where they were. So the first thing we advised them was to let people know that they were in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Now these guys have actually done that. They've actually said, you know, professional plumbing, that's who you are. Professional plumbing services in Melbourne. So you know straight away, if you're from Sydney, these guys are not for you. Okay. And they know that they've, you know, what you can do, which is good. And they go into a second stage and they're here. You've got the phone number. It's very, very clear. Call us for a fast quote and we'll come running. So they've got a bit of a proposition as well here. They're letting you know that you know, you want the attention now. They're going to give you the attention now, hopefully. And so look, and down at the left-hand side, we looked at some comparisons with other sites. So we looked at, you know, we talked about this. Well, they said they had these other guys said they had 24/7 emergency plumbing. But when we tried to look at and click the button, what we got was an inquiry form. So the question there is, you know, that is not the right response for somebody who is looking for emergency plumbing. They want a phone number. Another one here, give us a call. Again, it went to a contact form. So of course you're going to go over them and straight to somebody like these guys who have got a phone number that you can contact. This here is the Taj Mahal, you know, sort of, I was talking to an Indian company a few weeks ago, and they were saying, yeah, they like to keep things simple, not build the Taj Mahal. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's really good. So, and they're saying that you don't make things complicated for people, you keep it as simple as possible. The fourth example here, phone numbers, click here. Again, it was another plumbing service, and again, you want attention, and you just had to click there, and you had about 3 or 4 different phone numbers. That is confusion for the customer. So, you know, I'm saying when it talks about watch your language, it's watch the way that you are trying to get them to make a commitment. And so these are current issues that we found on websites. So, you know, it's not something historic. This is happening today. Just the second part of that, they had their value proposition on their page, you know, dependable, affordable plumbing services. They've got their, you know, almost 40 years of experience in the repair and maintenance of them. They've been specific about what they're doing. So, you know, it's whether you want an emergency plumber, now there's a link there, or a simple kitchen repair. They have been very, very specific about what they do, very, very clear about what they do. And if you were going to land on that website, you probably would make that call. They've got the pain, they've got the solution. Now, if you're in the not-for-profit area, you go, oh, yeah, well, this is a business. I think it is the same principle. It is the 7-second rule. If you want somebody, and especially if you're looking for donations or fundraising, or somebody to attend your events or courses, then you've got to be mindful of, you know, that 7-second rule. When somebody lands on what you do, you don't say, da, 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 is an organization that blah, blah, blah. No, they don't want to know about who you are as the minute that they land on your page. They want to know what is it, who's it for, and what's in it for me. Okay, if somebody's got their microphone on. Okay, so, you know, if you follow that principle, what is it, who's it for, and what's in it for me, then you, as I said, many of the organizations in the not-for-profit space, I have experienced where you immediately go into what, about them, rather than some of the things that they're offering, and in a way, and packaged in a way that you want to click that button and move on and engage with them. So if you were, for instance, looking for volunteers, that would be probably, when somebody lands on your page and you're a volunteer organization or something like that, that might be prominent, because people might want to volunteer. Don't make it about we're the foremost. You can do that at the bottom of the page, or on the About Us, but the prime space is about what is it that they can do for you, or it should be. Again, that lesson about contact information, make it so somebody can contact you straight away. Don't have 4 or 5 phone numbers. Just give that one contact, one email, so that you don't cause confusion. I'm sorry about, I'm not quite sure actually, customers first language. I'm not sure where I was actually going with that one. So please apologize. I apologize on that one. Stories versus testimonials. This is something that, again, because the not-for-profit space is a very social space, and in fact, in the business space, people respond to stories. Last week I was talking about the likes of McDonald's, the likes of, I'm thinking here, Coca-Cola. They all had a story. So even when we're talking to the, not-for-profits, looking at trying to attract people to us, whoever you are, your stories are very important now, especially in the not-for-profit space, because they want, if you want to, I'm working with training organizations, for example. There are quite a lot of training organizations in the not-for-profit area, or youth organizations. You land on that page, you might be a sponsor, you might be a government funder because they always ask for your email, for your website address. So they land on your page. If you show them stories of, or it might even be video stories of some of the successes that you have, then you're going to create that relationship with them, and they're going to, that the words are jumping off the page because the words are coming from the people themselves who've benefited. You see on some websites or in brochures and stuff, testimonials. Well, testimonials are okay. You've got to be very good at how you present them. Because if you say, somebody gives a testimonial about an organization and how brilliant the organization is, that doesn't work as well as they're talking about how the organization was able to help them. Because then whoever's looking in the future, if they've got a similar issue and they see a testimonial that actually pushes their buttons, they're going to go, aha. So again, the language you use in testimonials is about the support and assistance that you've given that's led, being successful through this. It could be business, it could be for not-for-profit, it doesn't matter. Its testimonials are really testimonials to the service that you've been able to provide, not about how good you are as an organization. That's one of the number one mistakes that I see. And the next one is to make it as easy as possible to get information or register. Now, in the first presentation, I sort of showed you a couple of clues. For instance, when you have the box, call now, or download, or book now. And the clever sites now actually have the arrow that's pointing to the button that they want you to press. And that is very, very effective, because we as humans then want to press that button. So, language is not just words, it's not just your audio, etc. It's also symbols. And like you said, an arrow is the best symbol possible. If it points to a box and the box says click me, then you're going to click it. Also, again, the language, what's your language, etc. You're building this expectation for this person, but this person might still not be sure whether it's you that they want to engage with. So maybe you could offer them something for free. It could, we talk about the free download these days. So it could be a checklist. It could be a guide. It could be a newsletter, a brochure, something educational. And so again, you're actually creating a bit of a relationship. They're getting to know you, and therefore you're helping them to make that decision through, again, yeah, I'd say it's through the language that you're using. You're not sell. You're helping them to do their research. And then as part of that process, you're showing them, you know what they want, and therefore they're more likely to come back to you and ask you for assistance. Okay, so this is going to be something you probably need to be mindful of when you are writing copy or trying to get the message across. It could be, as I said, by video. It's 4 reasons why people don't buy. And this is what you think, they don't know you exist, and they don't trust you. So that's why when you're trying to connect with your potential customer, offer them a freebie, as we just mentioned, educate them, get their trust. That's just, so this is just the tip of the iceberg because it's a short presentation. Okay, so the next step here is, and this 4 reasons why, is they don't need or want what you're offering. I see this a lot on Facebook as well. So you create a need. You create these. Have you seen those adverts? You see them on websites. You see them on social media. They're these horrible, grotesque pictures. I say grotesque. Have you seen those with the teeth and all kind of? Well, they're there because they stop people. They are called stop images. Now, stop images are not just negative. You can have some really, really good emotional images. That's what works well on social media because pictures paint 1,000 words. So again, your language could be just the image and emotion, and we tie to that. So you could create a need by having images, shock facts. Did you know that? Blah, 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 blah. A good example I use, I've seen in examples in ways, is something about prostate cancer can actually affect you, you know, if what you're doing, if you're a man from the age from 25, because people think it's, you know, an old man's problem. So it's good images there of people getting shock facts out about how it can affect younger people. And so that then is some language then that gets people's attention. So if you know that there's a need out there, people need you, but they don't know that they need you, then create something that's going to create that shock factor, that surprise factor, something that actually gets their attention. So then what they'll do is they will then start to do their research. Oh, this is going to affect me. And so they'll check, double check, and then that's when, if you're really good, you can actually be at all the points in their decision-making process so that they finally get back to you anyway. Or you can tell them, why you are different right up front, or, obviously. So I'm saying to you that sometimes they don't know what you're offering, or they don't think they need it. Create some kind of outstanding, sort of comment or something. Make sure it's true, of course, but something that's going to get their attention. The third area is they don't have the time. Now, again, that's just an objection. Is if you can show them that time, money, it all goes down to time, money, and effort. If you can show them that the value of what you're doing is going to be, it's actually going to be a bigger impact than the time that's involved, or you can find ways of convincing them, to do something a little bit quicker, then they will come, they will come. So they can't afford what you're offering is the other one. We found that it's just being I found is just being consistent. If they really need it, they will find a way if you can show them. But that's one thing. But the reason I'm going back to consistency is, and I think I mentioned it last time, or maybe not, is that yes I did, you try and go to their story and find out what their emotion points are, and then this is what the good, I say good inverted commas, salespeople do. They will go back to what some point in time or some emotional point, where they can refer back to that you want to get beyond in the future. So again, if you can find that in your market, then that's how you're pitching your language. Now, many people see that. This is the clever. Now I'm going to turn everything around a little bit. This is where people see this as being the pain point. So that's where people are selling these days. Consultants are telling you to look for the pain point. Once you've got the pain point, you know the language. That's what they're trying to see. The shock, the horror. If these things are bad, if you continue this way, it's going to get 10 times worse. But hey, we've got the solution. You'll see that if you go away with nothing else today, just go and have a look at how people are promoting their services and have a look for that. Let you know there's a problem, exaggerate the problem. If you don't do anything about it, blah, blah, blah. Hey guys, we're the ones for you. This is our unique selling proposition. I'm going to turn that on its head a little bit. This is the reward for coming to see me, coming listen to me today. Because I say, is it all about finding the pain? Describe it, amplify it, and then here's the solution. I'm sure, do you feel uncomfortable? What if I were to show you another approach that also changes the way you talk to your customers and prospects? The way you talk. I do this in workshops. I've got small workshops, 2-hour workshops, and this is just a sort of a flavor of it, but in the workshops I actually nail those motivation factors, and once we get those nailed, people go, aha, and it completely changes how they think, the language that they use when they talk to their prospects. So this is what other business and marketing coaches are not telling you, maybe because they're too busy following the crowd. This is me. Okay, demote the pain, promote the motivation. And what I'm trying to say there is, if you know what your target market looks like, who they are, etc., somewhere in that definition, you should be looking at what motivates them. And there are actually about 6 motivations in the world that people tend to follow. And I found this actually hidden in a 90-year-old book in plain sight. Okay, but I'm going to give you some examples here just to tease you. A few years ago, we did some research for a farmer's market. And we've actually got a couple of agricultural clients who are, farmers who do their, trading in some of their trading in farmers markets. And we found that, the people, who are the people who go to a farmer's market? They're people who have got, may have money, may have, value their health is value here. But they are actually, I'll give you a couple of clues here. It's actually, there's a motivator, there's a couple of motivators, but one of them is called, I'll say self-indulgence. And so if you thought about self-indulgence as a motivator for people going to farmers markets, then when you start to talk about the farmers market, you start thinking about, well, what does self-indulgence mean? It means people who maybe, are very, very, well, there's pride here as well. There's another one called pride. There's people who really value, the food they eat, etc. It's not a pain point. It's they want this food. They can afford it. They're treating themselves. They love and they treat their families. So you then start to think, well, if you come from that motivation, then it eliminates this idea of trying to sell everything at the lowest possible price, because these people, it's not about the price, It's about them. It's about the food they eat. It's about the dining experience. So you can then actually, this is a good opportunity really for farmers markets to start sharing, or the stallholders to start sharing, and create the journey for that person to create the ideal meal that they're likely to be, to want to entertain. They may even want to entertain people. So, once you start thinking, well, these people, what motivates these people is more like this. It's got nothing to do with pain, although there are some people who do go along and they've found that they do have a health problem, and the food in these markets being organic, the organic ones do actually do them some good, but they're actually pride in their own bodies and health as well. It's not just what we call self-preservation. So I'll give you an example there. I'll give you a second example. We did a workshop about a year ago, and it was an art supply shop. And the woman was saying that she had problems because, I'm sure some of you will actually understand this, is that people would come into the shop and they'd want to get stuff cheaper because they could get paint materials at the local Kmart store. And even though these were, better quality, she still had that, people want, people don't want they just want it cheap as possible. I can't really afford it, but I'm not going to get the sale, etc. So her mindset was trying to, to get the sale basically. And it wasn't really sort of helping her. So when we looked at what motivates these people, we talked about motivators. I mentioned one was called pride. We realized, or we explored, that the people that she was trying to reach were serious artists, the people who would buy quality materials. So when she looked at that, she thought, okay, so how do I then rearrange my shop so that when people come in, they've got the experience of, this is what you can do, this is what you can achieve, and that extra technical help that she could give them, because obviously she had the background. And then she realized, actually, these people will pay the price because this is more important to them than the cost. So it wasn't about the pain point wanting something as cheap as possible. It was more about, this is the pride that people have in their art. So as I said, within a week, she just completely changed her own art supply shop. People came in. If anybody came in looking for a discount, she felt comfortable to say no, because that's not what her target market was. And she was also surprised that many of these people actually still bought the products. So when she started to think about what motivates the real people, the real target market, she was talking to them in a completely different language, not just the way she interacted with them, but even her shop layout. Third example, Valentine's Day. And again, we all buy into Valentine's Day and look at the cards, etc. Buy the cards, buy the gifts, etc. But the motivator there is love. I mean, that's what the marketers are doing, even with Christmas time, the main festivals, etc. What they're doing and the way that they sell and the language they use. So go away and have a look at what the language that they're using in their advertising. You can see straight away that they're actually working from the motivator of love. So when you're sitting and writing copy for something and you're looking, well, what's the motivation here? Valentine's Day, the language you use gets quite flowery and love-oriented, etc. So again, it's not coming from the pain point, it's coming from what motivates the market that you're talking to. But having said that, health pills, they could come from self-preservation. So that's why that works very well when you see the headache pills and stuff like that, getting rid of headaches. It's not about the content of the pills anymore, it's more about the results, but it's the pain point, because that motivator is self-preservation. So what I reckon is that, and this is me standing out on my own, and I'm not afraid to do that, is that the everybody else is following that it's all about the pain points, and I'm saying the pain point is actually an indicator of one motivator. And somewhere along the line, we've all got lost in that one motivator when there are actually others out there. Once we engage with those motivators, which are, so, pride, and we mentioned pride, self-indulgence, self-preservation, love. There's a couple more. One's duty, and I'm not sure. Gain, that's the other one, and that's another one that people tend to use gain and self-preservation interchanged. But if you look at across the six, any combination of two, your target avatar, then you start thinking different language already. Your brain is thinking differently. All right, so we're getting close to the end. I just wanted to, that was my crescendo there. So when it comes to what we call the ABC of copywriting, I thought I'd just give you some hints, some clear tips here. Be clear about who you're targeting and what motivates them. Don't target the whole world. Just go, to a specific, we call them avatar, but the added clue there is to really think about what motivates them. The second point is, what do you want them to think, feel, or do when they see the offer? Make it as easy as possible for them to buy into you. Click the button. Think, feel, that's part of the emotion. Why should they choose your product or service? That's a bit like your USP, your success, the stories, etc. So, in that combination, keep your headline promise. Start off by saying blah, 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 but make sure that as you go through that you're sticking to the point and not moving off onto a tangent. Okay, use numbers if you can. 50% increase by 9 or 500 and something, buy this for the price of a cup of coffee a day, $4.97 a day, multiply it by a number of days in a month, week, months. It was something that you can then, people think about that. Read copy out loud. If you've got something that you're ready to issue, just read out loud. Just read it. The best copywriters in the world going back 100 years are saying this. Just keep reading and read again and read again. And it's amazing how you can change that copy just by reading it out. Replace pronouns, so him, etc. You talk about so-and-so is married. You can actually go and see him. You can actually change that him to, you can go see the greatest pianist in the world. I'm saying what the advice is that whenever you come across a pronoun, you can actually replace that pronoun with something more descriptive. And if you're writing an article and you know that there's people going to say, but I can't afford this or this, blah, 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 think about what those objections are and then use them to, I won't say as headers, but to actually create headers that are actually overcoming the objection. So, we haven't got time for this. We can say, this creates more time, and then they'll look down at it and they'll see that heading, create more time, not this create more time, make it short, short and snappy. Somebody's then going to, oh, okay, and they're going to go straight to that header, and they're going to say, okay, so you've solved that problem for them straight away, or you've resolved that issue, that objection. So we'll send copies of these slides to the people in the session so that you can go through them afterwards. But that's why I'm trying to say, look, these are some of the basic clues in copywriting that will help you. And I'm saying, look, if you can get into what motivates somebody, that is probably dynamite. Okay, so thank you for listening on this. I've just gone a bit over time. Just to flag that next time I will be, in fact, I've got a template that we can actually get down, people can download from the chat space in the next session. which is basically a simple marketing plan that you can put together. And just to go through it, and it's just picking up some of the elements of the last few sessions, but you don't need to have been to all of the sessions to do that. We can still work with you. So how to set up in a marketing campaign, a basic plan for your product or service. If you don't have a marketing plan, then this is probably a good place to start. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, then we've got you can contact me on 03905 5889, or just go to bit.ly/TCE booking, and then we've got a calendar and you can see when I'm free, and you can just put your booking in there and we can have a conversation. So I hope you've got some value out of that. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stop the share, stop the recording, and then hopefully we can have a conversation. Any questions, etc., which I find very useful after this presentation. So just bear with me while I stop the share.